Looking for financial insights you can trust?
How do you protect yourself as an investor? What's the strategy?
I think it's really simple. I think you just want to be diversified in your portfolio.
The Payne family brings real-world experience to every conversation.
Well, I think that's the problem right now is, right, a lot of people that are close to retirement, they're taking so much risks. And if we do get a big sell-off, it could derail their retirement.
Listen to the Pain Points of Wealth on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
This podcast is brought to you by Carvana. Carvana makes car selling fast and easy from start to finish. Enter your license plate or VIN and get a real offer in seconds, down to the penny. If you accept, Carvana will come pick up your car from your driveway. Or you can drop it off at one of our car vending machines. Either way, you get paid instantly. It's fast, transparent, and 100% online. Car selling that saves your time. That's Carvana.
Carvana.
Pickup fees may apply.
The Stone Zone, entertaining and informative
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome. You are now entering the Stone Zone. Well, in the things that make you go, department, the Department of Justice says they have finally located and now charged the man they call the pipe bomber. That's the individual who placed pipe bombs near both the Republican and Democrat national committees on December 6th. Turns out that the man they've charged, Brian Cole, was known to the Biden Justice Department for some time, but now finally has been charged by our current Justice Department. But here's the strange part. The federal prosecutor in charge of prosecuting Mr. Cole is one Jocelyn Ballentine in the U.S. District of Attorney's office in D.C. This is the same Jocelyn Ballentine who tried to pressure the leader of the Proud Boys, Enrique Tarrio, who was later, I think, falsely convicted of seditious conspiracy on January 6th, into claiming that I somehow was involved or had knowledge of those activities. Let me make it very clear. Any claim that I knew in advance about, participated in, or condoned any illegal action on January 6th is categorically false. But the real question is, why is Jocelyn Ballentine still working for the Trump administration? The truth is, the swamp runs very, very deep. Meanwhile, President Trump, I think, reacting to many in his own coalition who are concerned about the midterms and realize that although food prices have come down, they have not come down enough. They're not as low as they were at the end of his first term as president. Gas prices are actually coming down quickly. We reported on this in the Stone Zone just the other day, but again, not down as low as they were during his first term as president. And of course, we're looking forward to a deeper interest rate cut by the Federal Reserve Board that could come as early as next week. All of those things, I think, are likely to give the economy a boost. Now, when it comes to the midterm elections, there's a lot of panicking. A lot of folks who are saying, oh, it's all over for the GOP and so on. Pardon me for being around a long time, but I've seen all of this before. When Ronald Reagan was president in his first term, he slashed taxes and federal regulations, but those economic fixes had not really yet taken grab of the economy. In going into the 1982 elections, there were many who were panicking. Of course, by 1984, we had a roaring economy, probably the most vibrant economy we've had in the country up until that time. So I believe that the president's deep tax cuts, his regulatory cuts, his tariff policies, which have greatly increased federal revenues, all of these things combined with the interest rate cut that is commensurate with the current unemployment and inflation rates mean that our economy a year from now will be quite different and quite a bit stronger than it is now. President Trump has put affordability front and center during a Pennsylvania rally this week, crediting his administration's economic revival for delivering what he calls the equivalent of a major tax cut for working families. Speaking in Pennsylvania, Trump blasted Democrats for suddenly claiming to care about the cost of living, comparing their message to Bonnie and Clyde preaching about public safety. You gotta love Donald Trump. This guy's got a way with words. Trump highlighted gasoline in some states dropping to $1.99 a gallon, arguing that cheaper energy is maybe even better than a big tax cut, especially families trying to make ends meet. He also debuted a new slogan, Make America Affordable Again. The president said, I have no higher priority than making America affordable again. That's what we're going to do. And again, they caused the high prices and we're bringing them down. It's a simple message. He refers, of course, to his predecessors, where inflation and high prices were the earmarks of the Biden administration. President Trump also touted the extension of the Trump tax cuts, calling the latest package the biggest tax cuts ever, which he said he hoped would push 401ks through the roof, boost the stock market to record highs, and contribute to the falling rent and food costs I mentioned earlier. He pointed to egg prices dropping since spring and said that dairy prices are finally easing after years of inflationary pressure. It's kind of funny that Democrats at the beginning of the term kept pointing to the fact that egg prices were not down. It's not that they are down drastically. They never mention them anymore. Funny how that works. The administration has now launched a national tour aimed at spotlighting Trump's economic turnaround, as inflation has actually slowed to roughly 3%, significantly lower than the Biden-era highs that hammered household budgets. With unemployment hovering near full employment and national gas prices averaging their lowest since early 2021, President Trump has a strong economy to run on, and it's only going to get stronger. And I'm convinced he'll do everything he can to make sure that Republicans win based on the MAGA economic record of the last first 2 years of his term. As James Carville, who I know particularly had a high regard for, once correctly said, it's the economy, stupid. Meanwhile, Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Too Late Powell, who's been a dogged opponent of President Trump's economic world, who did everything he possibly could to hamstring the Trump economy and sow seeds of doubt in the minds of the public. Powell continued with his subversive activity on Wednesday when he claimed, without presenting any evidence whatsoever, that the Trump administration may be overstating monthly job creation. Powell claimed that Fed staff, that it would be the reserve of the Federal Reserve Board, believe the government could be off by as much as $60,000 per month, turning solid gains into slight job losses. It's worth noting that any potential discrepancy stems from long-standing flaws in the Department of Labor's modeling, something that Jerome Powell never worried about in the past. In fact, during the Biden presidency, every single job statement was later reserved drastically or revised drastically downward. Powell, of course, doesn't mention that. For years, the Bureau of Labor Statistics has struggled to accurately track job creation from new businesses to closures, often revising the numbers down many months later. This is because of an incompetent and inefficient Washington, D.C. bureaucracy with outdated data systems that ineffectively measure the number of jobs created. Also, the games they play, sometimes counting part-time jobs, full-time jobs, and so on. There's no reason to believe the current numbers are false, and Powell is simply trying to undermine President Trump and our economy for political reasons yet again. Powell's been doing this since he hates Donald Trump's America First tariff policy. Chairman Powell is a partisan hack. By the way, he's a lawyer. He's not even an economist. And he's been operating under this facade of independence due to the immense, unaccountable, and unconstitutional power of America's central bank. It'll be soon enough for me. And that cannot do anything other than boost our economy, as I think we will finally get the interest rate cuts we deserve based on the current rate of inflation and unemployment. President Trump's Pennsylvania rally also shared some hopeful news about the condition of the West Virginia National Guardsman Andrew Wolf, who's made a remarkable and perhaps miraculous recovery after he and his fellow guardsman, Sarah Beckstrom, were attacked while patrolling the nation's capital. The two were attacked while patrolling, and unfortunately, the suspect, who yelled Ali Akbar, fatally shot Sarah Beckstrom, causing her death. That's why I don't understand why the Department of Justice keeps saying that they're investigating investigating, looking for a motive. I think the motive is pretty clear. President Trump said Andrew is the second one who's from the West Virginia National Guard. Incredible people. And so both of them were from West Virginia. His mother's name is Monica, the president said. The president noted that Andrew's mother, Monica, is the most positive person he said he's ever met. The night he got hit so badly, the doctors gave him almost no chance of survival. Today, he said he spoke to her and could not believe his miraculous recovery. All Americans join us in praying for the recovery of this brave public servant who put his life on the line. Meanwhile, the gunman, whose was Lakhanwal, entered the U.S. from Afghanistan after Joe Biden's post-withdrawal asylum program, when the Biden administration assured that every Afghan he let into the country would be heavily vetted. The problem here is that Lakhanwal had a one-year deadline to apply for asylum, but he didn't apply. He received asylum 3 years after arriving in the United States. Why? Well, I think it's because he previously worked for the CIA. On the other hand, I'm not sure that once you work for the CIA, you don't always work for the CIA. There's a lot of questions about how and why this individual got in the country, but even a greater question about why he received asylum. There's more blood on the hands of Democrats in all of this, and we really need to investigate it far more thoroughly. Meanwhile, House Republicans are, as young people would say, fumbling the bag on the issue of health care. Seems they have no vision and no plan to help Americans who are seeing their health care costs rise exponentially as Obamacare implodes. With the subsidies that prop Obamacare up set to expire in just a few weeks, House Speaker Mike Johnson reportedly walked into a closed-door meeting Tuesday and offered not a strategy, not a bill, not a proposal, but a list. A list of 10 vague ideas, including one bullet point that really just said innovation. And this is very, very disappointing. It was up to House Republicans to put forward some solid proposals, some solid alternative to Obamacare, which has not worked out. The failure of leadership has angered a number of House Republicans, particularly those who are hanging on by a thread and facing tough electoral challenges during the midterms. Congresswoman Jen Higgins of Virginia warned that this is a complete abject failure on health care and could destroy Republicans at the polls. Conservatives complain the leadership has wasted the entire year, too busy perhaps stalling to prevent the vote on the Epstein files, something that I was opposed to. I think we need to have full disclosure on everything relating to Epstein. Instead, they got distracted and didn't get to the hard work of helping the American people when it comes to health care costs. Anybody who thinks that here in the Stone Zone we are Republican partisans doesn't really get it. See, I'm an equal opportunity critic. I criticize Democrats, Republicans, and independents. Here you'll find the stone cold truth. One other lawmaker said that they wasted so much time that the leadership says that they may not have time in the next several weeks to vote to expand the health care saving accounts, which would be a strong policy, but doesn't come close to solving the entire overall problem of having a health care system in the American health care system that's put in place for the American people. With just 7 working days left this year, Speaker Johnson suggests the party can tackle health care next spring, right before the midterms. Even with President Trump leading the party, I'm afraid it's the same old swampy rhino BS in Washington, D.C., and it could yet cost the president next year. The Department of Justice announced on Tuesday that a federal judge is ruling protecting FBI Director James Comey from being indicted for his crimes, preventing key evidence from being used. Prosecutors told a Washington court that they're effectively enjoined from pursuing Comey after Judge Colleen Kollar-Kotelly, a frequent opponent of President Trump, who has blamed him for the violence that occurred on January 6th during the Fedsurrection, temporarily barred them from using emails seized from Comey confidant Richard Daniel Richman. The failure to convict James Comey in an open and shut case of lying to Congress is an outrage. I'm Roger Stone. You're listening to the Stone Zone, and we'll be right back.
Looking for financial insights you can trust?
How do you protect yourself as an investor? What's the strategy?
I think it's really simple. I think you just want to be diversified in your portfolio.
The Payne family brings real-world experience to every conversation.
Well, I think that's the problem right now is, right, a lot of people that are close to retirement, they're taking so much risks. And if we do get a big sell-off, it could derail their retirement.
Listen to the Payne Points of Wealth on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
REI Co-op presents a perfect outdoor moment with the perfect gift. Picture this. You're ripping with your favorite person. Bluebird skies, blower powder, and frankly, you're skiing like legends.
So sick. Another lap?
Thanks to REI's curation, from lid to sticks, you nailed the gift.
No way. How'd you know?
Does it get more perfect than that? Give without guessing. Shop in store or visit rei.com.
How do I do it all during the holidays? 4 words. Shipt, same day delivery. With Shipt, I can order groceries from Albertsons, decor from Michael's, even gifts for my furry friend from PetSmart. Plus, my personal shopper brings everything I need that same day. That makes it a breeze to decorate, get my shopping done, and make time for all the holiday parties. Do it all this holiday season with Shipt. Download the app or visit Shipt.com. That's SHIPT.com.
The Stone Zone, entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
And we're back in the Stone Zone. It is the season, and coming December 20th, it's home for the holidays with Mr. Christmas himself, Vinny Modugno, live from Studio 77 right here in New York City. Get ready to slay your night away with live performances, ugly Christmas sweaters, and jolly friends. If you love live entertainment, Vinny Modugno is an incredibly dynamic performer. It's Mr. Christmas himself, singing all your holiday favorites live in concert, December 20th at the WABC studios. So for more information and tickets, go to homefortheholidays2025.com. That's right. If you want to see Mr. Christmas, Vinny Modugno live in concert from the WABC headquarters in Studio 77, go to homefortheholidays2025. That's homefortheholidays2025.com to get your tickets today. Returning to the case of FBI Director James Comey, I continue to marvel about how he and I were charged with the exact same crimes, yet we've been treated completely differently. First of all, there's the manner in which we were arrested. As I think millions of Americans saw, 29 heavily armed FBI agents stormed my home at 6 o'clock in the morning, terrifying my wife and my dogs, not to mention my neighbors, when all they had to do was call and tell my attorney that I was being charged, and I would have been more than happy to turn myself in. Then, of course, there is the question of the gag. I was gagged by a federal judge. I wasn't entitled to defend myself on any medium whatsoever, cable, radio, television, the internet, social media. Yet Mr. Comey has been continued to prevaricate and attack those who charged him. And, of course, lastly is the fact that I was never allowed to even claim that I was selectively prosecuted or being prosecuted as a matter of political motivation. Of course, the judge has offered no such restriction on Mr. Comey's defense attorneys. Just more proof that we have a two-tier justice system, and now comes a ruling by the judge today that the government cannot use the communications between Comey and his confidant, Daniel Richman. Richman is the man who Comey specifically authorized and directed to leak classified information to the media designed to embarrass President Donald Trump. Amazing that the government restricts the use of that. When I wanted to demonstrate to a jury in the District of Columbia that the underlying claim regarding my case, that the Russians had hacked the Democrat National Committee and had given the information to the Trump campaign, I could have proven using forensic evidence and expert testimony that there was never any online hack of the DNC. Therefore, I could have absolved myself. Needless to say, unlike the situation where the jury today or the judge today is restricting information from going to a jury, in my case, the judge would never allow me to make such a defense. Never been a more outrageous example of the two-tiered justice system, and on the heels of that, late today, a federal grand jury failed for the second time, to re-indict Letitia James over a simple charge of mortgage fraud, a charge that she herself has prosecuted numerous people for. I'm Roger Stone. You're listening to Stone Zone, and will be.
Okay, only 10 more presents to wrap. You're almost at the finish line. But first... there, the last one. Enjoy a Coca-Cola for a pause that refreshes.
The Lincoln Wishlist sales event is happening now. Here's what's on everyone's wish list. Enjoying holiday jingles with brilliant 3D audio that surrounds you? Check. Watching snow flurries through the panoramic Vista roof? Check. Packing up presents with the spacious Lincoln Splitgate? Check. Everything you want. All standard on the 2025 Lincoln Navigator SUV. Visit your local Lincoln retailer or learn more at Lincoln.com for exceptional offers on 2025 Lincoln vehicles today.
What if an appliance emergency didn't have to be? If your appliances suddenly decided they were done, don't stress. Best Buy has you covered with a wide variety of major appliances from trusted brands, in stock and available now. So you don't have to worry about laundry piling up, refilling the fridge, or that big dinner party you're hosting. Because Best Buy has the knowledge and expertise to get you the right appliance for your home. Learn more at bestbuy.com. Best Buy. Imagine that.
The Stone Zone. Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
And we're back in the Stone Zone. It is the season, and coming December 20th, it's home for the holidays with Mr. Christmas himself, Vinny Modugno, live from Studio 77 right here in New York City. Get ready to slay your night away with live performances, ugly Christmas sweaters, and jolly friends. If you love live entertainment, Vinny Modugno is an incredibly dynamic performer. It's Mr. Christmas himself, singing all your holiday favorites live in concert, December 20th at the WABC studios. So for more information and tickets, go to homefortheholidays2025.com. That's right, if you want to see Mr. Christmas, Vinny Modugno, live in concert from the WABC headquarters in Studio 77, go to homefortheholidays2025, that's homefortheholidays2025.com to get your tickets today. Returning to the case of FBI Director James Comey, I continue to marvel about how he and I were charged with the exact same crimes, yet we've been treated completely differently. First of all, there's the manner in which we were arrested. As I think millions of Americans saw, 29 heavily armed FBI agents stormed my home at 6 o'clock in the morning, terrifying my wife and my dogs, not to mention my neighbors, when all they had to do was call and tell my attorney that I was being charged, and I would have been more than happy to turn myself in. Then, of course, there is the question of the gag. I was gagged by a federal judge. I wasn't entitled to defend myself on any medium whatsoever, cable, radio, television, the internet, social media. Yet Mr. Comey has been continued to prevaricate and attack those who charged him. And, of course, lastly is the fact that I was never allowed to even claim that I was selectively prosecuted or being prosecuted as a matter of political motivation. Of course, the judge has offered no such restriction on Mr. Comey's defense attorneys. Just more proof that we have a two-tier justice system, and now comes a ruling by the judge today that the government cannot use the communications between Comey and his confidant, Daniel Richman. Richman is the man who Comey specifically authorized and directed to leak classified information to the media designed to embarrass President Donald Trump. Amazing that the government restricts the use of that. When I wanted to demonstrate to a jury in the District of Columbia that the underlying claim regarding my case, that the Russians had hacked the Democrat National Committee and had given the information to the Trump campaign, I could have proven using forensic evidence and expert testimony that that there was never any online hack of the DNC. Therefore, I could have absolved myself. Needless to say, unlike the situation where the jury today or the judge today is restricting information from going to a jury, in my case, the judge would never allow me to make such a defense. Never been a more outrageous example of the two-tiered justice system. And on the heels of that, late today, a federal grand jury failed for the third time, or probably the second time, to re-indict Letitia James over a simple charge of mortgage fraud, a charge that she herself has prosecuted numerous people for. I'm Roger Stone. You're listening to Stone Zone, and will be.
Rain-X wipers are the #1 wiper blades in America. That means all kinds of drivers choose Rain-X. Big drivers in small cars choose Rain-X. Small drivers in big cars choose Rain-X. Drivers with long hair and short commutes choose Rain-X. Drivers with short hair and long commutes choose Rain-X. Drivers with pets on board, babies on board, and bored babies on board choose Rain-X. Basically, drivers who love a clear view of the road all choose Rain-X wipers, the #1 wiper blades in America.
Shopify's point-of-sale system helps you sell at every stage of your business. Need a fast and secure way to take payments in person? We've got you covered. How about card readers you can rely on anywhere you sell?
Thanks. Have a good one.
Yep, that too. Want one place to manage all your online and in-person sales? That's kind of our thing. Wherever you sell, businesses that grow with Shopify. Sign up for your $1 a month trial at shopify.com/Spotify. Shopify.com/Spotify.
¿Hablas español?
Sprichst du Deutsch?
Kann du Norsk?
If you used Babbel, you would. Babbel's conversation-based techniques teaches you useful words and phrases to get you speaking quickly about the things you actually talk about in the real world, with lessons handcrafted by over 200 language experts and voiced by real native speakers. Babbel is like having a private tutor in your pocket. Start speaking with Babbel today. Get up to 55% off your Babbel subscription right now at babbel.com/Spotify. Spelled BABBEL.com/Spotify. Rules and restrictions may apply.
The Stone Zone, entertaining and informative
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
And you're re-entering the Stone Zone. In even more news of courts gone wild, a federal judge has ordered the immediate release of Kilmar Abrego Garcia, the man who's become the Salvadorian George Floyd, if you will. Garcia was previously deported to El Salvador's notorious Sica mega prison over alleged MS-13 gang ties, and because he allegedly trafficked illegal migrants into the country. But because the media displayed some pictures of him smiling with family members, calling him a Maryland dad instead of a illegal criminal gang member, liberals have rallied to Garcia's defense, and this has made it incredibly frustrating for the Trump administration in their attempts to deport this dangerous criminal. The ruling, issued Thursday by U.S. District Judge Paula Zinnes, an Obama appointee to the bench, of course, declares that Abrego Garcia has been repeatedly detained without lawful authority and cannot be removed from the United States due to an absence of a final removal order. Abrego Garcia was deported on March despite a 2019 order blocking his return to El Salvador over claimed fears of persecution, which is frequently an excuse that the far-left attorneys use when they're trying to prevent dangerous illegals from being deported from the country. The Trump administration cited intelligence tying Abrego to MS-13, although Garcia proclaims his innocence, perhaps dubiously so. After being brought back to the United States to face human smuggling charges, to which he pleaded not guilty, Garcia was redetained by ICE and held in a Pennsylvania facility. Department of Homeland Security spokesperson Tricia McLaughlin blasted today's ruling as a naked judicial activism act and vowed to fight it tooth and nail, warning that judges should not override immigration authorities acting to protect public safety. Garcia will now be released until under federal supervision, while awaiting trial. a decision that highlights the ridiculousness of our entire system. I'm beginning to wonder whether we're really a democracy. We're a keratocracy ruled by unaccountable, unelected, politically connected judges wearing robes. They're really Democrat activists in black. I think we all know what the Founding Fathers would have done if faced with this same state of affairs. Meanwhile, the Epstein case continues to dominate the news. A federal judge in New York has ordered the release, finally, of key Epstein documents tied to the 2019 sex trafficking case. Now, here's the thing I don't understand. FBI Director Kash Patel says that he has seen no evidence whatsoever that Epstein was involved in child sex trafficking. This makes no sense because in 2019, Jeffrey Epstein was indicted by the Trump Justice Department on 2 counts. 1 count of child sex trafficking and a 2nd count of conspiring to engage in child sex trafficking. That's why I'm anxious to see these grand jury materials, which today were finally ordered to be released. These, of course, will be the documents that were involved in both the indictment of Epstein and his longtime associate and pimp, Ghislaine Maxwell. The order follows a July motion by Attorney General Pam Bondi and Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche requesting release of the material, citing what they called overwhelming public interest and a commitment by the Trump administration to transparency in an investigation that has sadly been shrouded in political protection. Here's a couple things about this case that I know firsthand because I wrote about it very extensively in my 2015 book, The Clintons' War on Women. So look at that book. You'll see that the longest chapter in the book, chapter 7, is entitled Orgy Island. That's because I investigated the Epstein case extremely thoroughly. By that I mean I interviewed Virginia Roberts Giuffre for 6 hours. She is the Epstein victim who refused a multi-million-dollar settlement to forge ahead with her lawsuit against Epstein. And then, quite tragically, only months ago, we were told that she committed suicide. But then I noticed that she had posted on social media a notice prior to that saying, I'm not at all suicidal. If you are told later that I committed suicide, be suspicious because I am not one to commit suicide. Very, very strange. Here's what we do know. Donald Trump barred Jeffrey Epstein from his life in late 2004. That was prior to Epstein being exposed as a sex criminal and being charged in the state of Florida. We also know that Donald Trump was the only public figure to cooperate with Virginia Roberts Giuffre and her attorney in the efforts to bring Epstein to justice. We also know from the FAA manifests that the only 2 times that Donald Trump was ever on Epstein's plane, it flew not to his island, but from Teterboro in northern New Jersey to Palm Beach on a Friday and returned on a Sunday. On both occasions, Trump was accompanied by his then wife, Marla Maples, and his daughter, Tiffany. So when you look at who actually visited the island, when you look at who visited Epstein's exotic ranch in New Mexico, the only Republican you will find on those lists is, well, Steve Bannon. The Democrats have an issue here that is going to blow up in their face spectacularly because they keep demanding full transparency, and when they get it, based on the FAA manifests and based on all my research, I can tell you who the political bigwigs were who visited Epstein's island and partied with underage girls. Those would include former President Bill Clinton, former Treasury Secretary in the Clinton administration, Larry Summers, former U.S. Senate Majority Leader George Mitchell, and not to mention some other major Democrat mega donors. In today's filing, the Justice Department emphasized that while certain details involving victims will be redacted, the American public deserves full access to the investigative work previously kept locked away behind courtroom doors. Judges had initially rejected unsealing requests of the grand jury material, citing grand jury secrecy rules. But the fact that Epstein is deceased and the enormous public interest, I think, justify the release of all this material. That changed after President Trump, I think, signed the Epstein Files Transparency Act, which requires release of all government records relating to Epstein, subject to victim privacy safeguards. I think this proves once and for all that the attempts by the Democrats to tie Donald Trump to some inappropriate activity with Epstein are a total and complete fugazi. This ruling, after another judge ordered release of related materials in Maxwell's case, 1 week after a Florida judge unsealed additional investigative material, all spells very bad news for the Democrats. Multiple courts are now acting in sequence because federal law and the White House have finally forced long-delayed sunlight into a case that has enraged Americans for years by seemingly protecting high-level pedophiles. Democrats, in my view, have made a huge error by supporting transparency in the Epstein case, believing that it would somehow hurt President Trump, only to see that it will now boomerang and hurt them. But Trump himself called their bluff. Now they're finally on the cusp of achieving actual transparency in this case. Democrats and their big donors will be exposed as a result of all of the available evidence currently shown that Epstein's chief collaborators were not Republicans. I'm so glad to see we're finally getting justice in this case. Meanwhile, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, also known as Tampon Tim, used a Seattle fundraiser this week to double down on his push for expanded Somali resettlements in Minnesota, even as he faces intense scrutiny at home over a massive $1 billion welfare fraud scandal that's now under federal investigation. Seems that $250 million was routed to Somali Medicaid funds, and that money was sent back to terrorist groups, including Al-Shabaab, in the country of Somalia. Overall, they say that this post-pandemic 19th scam cost taxpayers approximately $1 billion. But Tim Walz is forging ahead, speaking to more than 1,000 donors at the Washington State Convention Center. Walz actually boasted that Minnesota accepts more refugees per capita than any other state, pledging to welcome more in and enhance taxpayer-funded programs to support them. Walz also used the event to attack federal immigration enforcement efforts and to take repeated jabs at President Donald Trump, drawing applause by suggesting that smart people rub Trump the wrong way. Washington State Governor Bob Ferguson followed by highlighting his administration's record of suing Trump, telling donors that his state was the first to take Trump on in 2017 and win, and the first to take Trump on in 2025 and win. This crowd-pleasing line came as Democrat organizers encouraged donors to scan QR codes to make contributions before a state fundraising blackout takes place under state law. Walz's appearance underscored a troubling disconnect, in my opinion. A governor under investigation for historic billion-dollar fraud, using out of a stage to promise even more spending while refusing to answer questions about his failed oversight of our tax dollars at home. While Walz cast his migrant trafficking agenda as compassionate It's anything but. The migrants are coming as part of a scheme to ensure Democrat-controlled government in perpetuity. It's an overthrow of the republic, in my opinion, a coup d'etat against our own Constitution. That's why the Democrat Party is less a legitimate political party and more akin to enemy combatants at this point. Walz is a very special, useful idiot for a very, very evil agenda. It does make you wonder about how thoroughly they vetted Tim Walz when they selected him for vice president. You see, the odds-on favorite to be the vice presidential running mate with Kamala Harris was Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro. Shapiro was telling Confidence that he had already been selected and was preparing to take the stage at the Democrat National Convention when he got the word that his candidacy had been vetoed by former President Barack Obama. Obama argued that because of Shapiro's Jewish heritage, that he would ensure defeat in both Minnesota and Michigan, where Muslim voters have now become a vital part of the Democrat coalition. And for that reason, Tim Walz, who I have to believe was virtually unvetted, bounded on to the national stage. It's interesting to me that Vice Presidential then candidate, now Vice President J.D. Vance, was such a gentleman, he never raised the fact in his one debate with Walz that Walz lied about his military service, lied about seeing action, lied about his rank. Hell, this guy even lied about being a football coach. Clearly, the most jarring thing is his running around saying that Donald Trump or that J.D. Vance were weird. Have you ever seen this guy? It doesn't come any weirder than that.
Retirement isn't just about closing out your career. It's living the life you've always dreamed of. With New York Life, you get the financial guidance to make it real. Start today at NYL.com.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever find yourself playing the budgeting game? Well, with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive, you can find options that fit your budget and potentially lower your bills. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states.
Chronic spontaneous urticaria, or chronic hives with no known cause. It's so unpredictable. It's like playing pinball. Itchy red bumps start on my arm, then my back. Sometimes my legs. Hives come out of nowhere. And it comes and goes. But I just found out about a treatment option at treatmyhives.com. Take that, chronic hives. Learn more at treatmyhives.com.
The Stone Zone. Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome to the Stone Zone. I'm your junior host, Roger Stone. In another major victory for the Trump administration, the Federal Appeals Court has upheld the policy banning military service in most instances from individuals in the genital mutilation part known as transgenderism. The D.C. Circuit's 2-1 ruling reverses a March District Court stay and affirms that the military is entitled to enforce strict medical and readiness standards, standards that the court noted have historically disqualified individuals with gender dysphoria. The panel emphasized that, for decades, U.S. military policy barred transgender service on medical grounds, only for the Obama and Biden administrations to loosen those requirements in the name of progressive social policy. This decision strongly rejects those arguments and says that the Trump policy is legally and constitutionally constituted, pointing out that the Supreme Court reason that regarding treatment for gender dysphoria concerning medical use is not protected sex-based classification. The court also noted that hundreds of other conditions, from bipolar disorder to asthma, also bar service, and the military must maintain the ability to deploy forces into austere and difficult environments without access to specialized medical care. The policy under the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, the court wrote, is completely constitutional and advances multiple operational imperatives. The decision cements the Trump administration's direction against rape military directives and reaffirms the Armed Service exists to fight and win wars, not to serve as a breeding ground for warped ideological or sexual agendas. With the ban now reinstated, pending further appeals, of course, the rulings will help the military be strong again, restoring sanity to our nation's most important institution. Meanwhile, the Trump administration is moving aggressively to tighten America's borders and to protect public safety, revoking more than 85,000 visas since January, over twice as many as the previous year. According to a State Department official, that includes roughly 8,000 student visas, with the largest share tied to crimes such as DUIs, assault, and theft, offenses that present a direct threat to the safety of American communities. Officials also confirmed that tens of thousands of additional revocations were linked to terrorism concerns, overstays, and other national security red flags. Democrats and civil liberty groups, of course, are whining about the Trump administration's muscular vetting process, particularly the Trump administration's insistence on reviewing applicants' public social media profiles. But the Trump State Department says it has a duty to use every available tool, including this online presence, to detect ideological extremism, violent intent, or support for terrorism before individuals are admitted to the United States. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has gone further, directing his department to revoke visas for foreign nationals who publicly celebrate political violence, including those who praise the assassination of my good friend, conservative commentator Charlie Kirk, only months ago. Several individuals have already been stripped of their visas as a direct result of those specific investigations. The Trump administration points to increasing threats abroad, such as extremist violence from Muslims targeting Christians in Nigeria, for example, as proof that the U.S. policy must be proactive, not reactive. The Trump administration is making it abundantly clear. Non-citizens have no right to enter or remain in the United States if they pose a danger to our public order. They are not entitled to be in this country. It's a privilege, and any visa holder who forgets that or takes it for granted can hit the bricks back to wherever they came from under this administration. Thanks for joining us today in the Stone Zone. It's interesting. They keep telling us the war in Ukraine is about democracy, but now, finally, after postponing national elections multiple times, President Zelensky has agreed to finally have a national vote. Why has he postponed elections? It's very simple, folks. He knows that if he runs in an open democratic election, he will lose. You heard it here on the Stone Zone with Roger Stone. Thanks for joining us. Until tomorrow, God bless you and Godspeed.
Thanks for listening to The Stone Zone with Roger Stone. You can hear The Stone Zone with Roger Stone weeknights at 8 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode, so you never have to wonder,
what the heck is going on here?
This is Roger Stone. The holidays are here, and it's the time of year when travel, crowds, and cold weather mean one thing. Everybody's getting sick. And in moments like this, you don't want to rely on the bureaucracy, the nonsense, or the slow-moving medical machine. You want control. You want to be prepared. You want options. That's why I want to tell you about All Family Pharmacy, a company that actually puts you in charge of your health. You can go to allfamilypharmacy.com/stone, place your order online, and a licensed physician reviews it. Once approved, your medication medication ships directly to your doorstep. Fast, private, and secure. So whether you're looking for ivermectin, antibiotics, or everyday maintenance medications, All Family Pharmacy now has you covered. No waiting rooms, no runaround, no interference. This holiday season, don't gamble with your health or your family's health. Stay prepared, stay protected, stay in control. Visit allfamilypharmacy.com/stone and now save 10% with code STONE10. Take charge of your health because nobody cares about your freedom more than you do.